Welcome, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm really excited to have everybody here today, and most of all, my guest, Chris Detert. And for those who have not tuned into the Reinvention virtual chat before, or the podcast, The Power of Reinvention, you're getting a combination show today. So this is kind of fun because we are doing our live virtual chat. I've politely asked all of our guests to stay muted so that we can have a bit of a clean interview conversation with Chris. And then I'm going to open it afterwards for Q&A. So I'm super excited to get this started. For those who don't know, who may be listening at some point, either on Facebook Live, who may be listening to a recording at some later date that you pick up off the Reinvention Exchange website or from the Power of Reinvention podcast. This show, the Reinvention Virtual Chat and the podcast, are both parts of the Reinvention Exchange and an extension of my book, Reinvent Your Life, What Are You Waiting For? That, as many of you know, came out at the beginning of last year. A week before, we were told to go home, shelter in place, and stay put for a while. And so it's been an amazing journey through the last year and a half. Talking about pivoting, talking about reinvention, talking about all these parts of our lives that we've been either invited or forced to take a closer look at. And I'm super excited to have Chris here today because Chris has been not only one of my dearest friends in the PR, marketing, branding, media, business world that we've both been playing in for so long, but he is a part of a company, which I'm going to let him tell you a little more about in a bit, called Influential. And before Influential, he was so influential with everything that he was doing that it's quite befitting. But we had some incredible experiences together working in the PR space, collaborating on projects, playing at Super Bowls together in all kinds of fun cities. So we've just, experienced the growth of our industries in so many new and unusual ways. And we're still here to talk about it, which is even more exciting. So I am thrilled to launch this conversation. I want to give you a little formal background on Chris, and then Chris, we are going to get into a really fun conversation. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. So as the Chief Communications Officer at Influential, Chris Detert has played an instrumental part in the launch and continued growth of the company. His 15 plus years of experience leading top brands and agencies include his post as VP of Marketing at the $100 million fashion phenomenon Von Dutch, as well as his role of CEO and owner at American Rebel PR. He's been featured in top publications, including the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the Hollywood Reporter, and Billboard, as well as broadcast media appearances on CBS, HLN, MTV, VH1, E, A&E, and Bravo. So this guy knows the media from both sides, having been behind the camera, in front of the camera, and just continues to shine. And Chris, I'm just super thrilled to have you here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kathy. Truly an honor.
It's exciting. I mean, look, we're going to take you back a little bit in time. I want to have a conversation with you and sort of say, who was that young Chris? Who was little Chris back in the day? Did you have any sense of where your life was going to take you, what you wanted to do when you grow up? Do you sit here going, wait a minute, I was going to be a rock star, and what happened to that career? Oh, I'm sorry, you are a rock star. I've seen you performing in front of a mic, on a mic. So yeah, that's still in your bones, which is actually kind of cool because it speaks to our whole self and really juggling all those parts of ourselves. So that being said, who was little Chris? And what was it that you dreamed of doing? And are you doing anything remotely close to that now?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that because, I actually, there was an iteration of me that did very badly want to be a rock star. My first thing, I guess, was in high school. I played football, and whatever I was doing at the time, I guess I just wanted to do it at the highest level. So I was playing quarterback at two different high schools that I was at, and I wanted to be a professional football player. Unfortunately for me, I'm 5'9" maybe, and that just doesn't work in the NFL, and I wasn't that good anyway. But I think whatever I was doing, whatever I wanted to do at the highest level, and I wanted to have notoriety for it. So that was sort of the first vision for me. And then I saw a picture of a school on a hill in Malibu, California called Pepperdine. And
Mhm.
I was like, that's the place for me. And so I headed out west. And actually, that was when I actually figured out that I was a good singer. And I was in a bunch of bands. I was in one band predominantly throughout college, and I played a weekly gig at the Malibu Inn, which is now a clothing store, which is a little
That's
bit sad to
funny.
me.
Yeah.
But the place still looks the same. They didn't tear it down or anything. I was actually in it recently, and it brought back some really good memories. And yeah, I think at the time in my in my college years through my early 20s, I wanted to be a rock star really badly. Um, I think my band just kind of all left and went different directions after college. And then I was trying to I was going to rehearsal spaces, everything from and this is such an LA thing, everything from garage spaces to actual, studio spaces, to people's mansions, all in the name of trying out for bands or whatever. And, I was doing that as sort of a side gig. I had to have a job. I couldn't just be travel in my van sort of rock star. So I actually was lucky enough to get my career started at a entertainment company called The Firm, which for those of you who've been in the entertainment industry for a long time, the early 2000s, I would say 2000 to 2005, that was probably one of the most important companies in the entertainment management industry.
Mm.
I got in there as a mailroom employee. And at the time, we were managing the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears. We were back when rock was still relevant. We had Korn and Limp Bizkit and bands like that. And so I loved it because it had this rock and roll ethos that really fit my personality anyway. And then in my mind, I really thought that that being there somehow would end up, I'd end up in a studio and get to show off my skills, and somehow that would be my side door in or whatever, so to speak. But in actuality, nobody really, the guy who's getting coffee and copies for everybody is not the person that they're looking to for that. So wasn't the best route for that, but it was the beginning of my career, and I spent nearly 3 years there. Had a great time doing it. Watched that company go from, I think, about 50 people when I started there to over 400. What had happened over that time was they merged or took over, bought Artist Management Group, which was Michael
Yeah,
Ovitz's company,
that's right.
which actually shifted the fulcrum of the company. It went from being an all music company to being a TV and film heavy company. And at that time, with AMG, we brought in Leonardo DiCaprio, we brought in Samuel L. Jackson, Cameron Diaz. These are all the most prime $20 million per picture actors of their time at that time. And then, along with it, a bunch of super agents like Rick and Julie Yorn, who represented people like that.
Yep.
And yeah, it was truly a special place. I feel like it's sort of like a fraternity sorority sort of relationship I have with the folks of the firm. There's a lot of people that I've ran into in my later career that have been tremendously successful in all sorts of different directions.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it fascinating to look? And I think, there's a couple of places in this town, if you will, that you look at the alumni and where they are today. And as I like to say to people, now that we've grown up and gotten older, the young people that were our friends, now the people running the business.
Yeah, exactly.
It's why I think people like you and I know Marvin definitely fits into this category. It's like we are such connectors, and we have this incredible at our fingertips, true relationships, because we're kind of older now. And so,
Yeah,
it really works. It's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. People say to me all the time, everybody. And I kind of feel like it's a product of being around LA, being around Hollywood for, I'm I guess 20 years solid out of college in the working world in Hollywood. So yeah. I mean, the number of relationships from the number of sources is just staggering. And if it weren't for things like social media and being able to keep, I think I have a 15 or 16 year track of emails. the way that I can like recall things because of that is, such a miracle sometimes
Yeah,
because
and
just
you and
been
I
down
both.
some, traveled so many roads.
Right. I always say to people, I've got 14,000 people in my database, which I, just recently stopped calling a Rolodex because,
Yeah.
I used to have 12 Rolodexes sitting on my desk. And, every person, they may move to another company, but you don't get rid of the old one because you got to remember, and the older you get, the more you're going to forget where they were. So you
Hmm.
want to keep those in there as well. So, it's probably good
Yep.
for about 10,000 people at this point. But it's amazing, and it's a testament to who you are and just your personal relationships. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of people can work in a town for a long time,
Hmm.
but may not connect with people in that way, and may not cherish those relationships, and may not
Hmm.
be sincere and authentic, and truly, have real friendships.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to you. So I have a
Oh, thank
quick question here. Having left the firm, was
you.
American Rebel PR the next step for you, or was Von Dutch the next
That was
step for
Von
you?
Dutch was the next step. Yeah,
And so
actually.
in that transition, did they come to you? Did you go to them? Was there a big risk involved in, considering the
Hmm.
move at the time?
Yeah. So what had happened was, this is really funny, actually. I don't know if I've ever said it in an interview, and I'd love it if you actually saw this. So I was working for the co-founder of the company at the time. His name is Michael Green, and he was notoriously a nightmare. He was one of the toughest men in Hollywood to deal with. Had an anger that was unlike many others, and I went from being in the mailroom to, you'd get kind of like put up on the block for a potential job, and everybody was putting me towards the Michael Green job. And I was like, damn, everybody's really nice. Like, why does everybody want me to have this job? Little did I know, nobody wanted the job. So they're pushing me up to do it because nobody else wanted to do it. And I quickly found out why. He would regularly yell at me. He never came into the office. So he was, and this is 2001. So like, there wasn't even like Zoom calls or any way to like really, I like never saw this man. I saw pictures of him. That was about it. But like, he would call in and he would yell at me about this, that, or the other, and it was just always a little bit ridiculous. And but it was I don't regret the experience because it taught me how to have thick skin at like a really young age. I was, I think, 21 or 22 years old, and yeah, it was. Yeah, I think I stayed in the position for 3 months, and there was one point that he just broke me down to a point that I just didn't want to be there anymore. And so I went into the president of the company, and I, respectfully submitted that I was stepping away from that position, but had hoped that, they would keep me in the company. And typically, if you came to a dead end with the manager, that was sort of your dead end there. But luckily, because of my, good rapport with so many others, enough people vouched for me to say, like, keep the kid around. So, I got to stay. Yeah, the kid stayed in the picture. So, I managed to stay there for probably another year or so, but I didn't get another opportunity to, assist a manager directly. But I did make a lot of great relationships. And one of them was a lady named Gail Bowler, and she was the manager of a big rock band at the time called Stained. And she was very sweet to me, and she always looked out for me. And her assistant called me one day, knowing that I, had wanted to get out of there, and said, there's a marketing assistant job at this upstart fashion brand called Von Dutch. And, what would you be interested in interviewing for it? And I wasn't like a fashion guy per se at the time, very much am now, but at the time I wasn't. And, I just didn't have the passion for what I was doing anymore. And I wanted to explore something new. So I took the job interview on a whim. And it turned out to be like super exciting. I did remember that a lot of the artists like Chris Cornell, who was the lead singer of Audioslave, formerly Soundgarden, had worn a Von Dutch shirt on the rooftop of David Letterman when he performed. And I had seen the Limp Bizkit guys wearing it. And then it had gotten really famous in the press because Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears were a couple at the time. And they were like always wearing Von Dutch together.
Yeah.
And so I got there to the interview, and it was like a hexagonal table with just a mess of pictures, like, just Polaroid style pictures. And as I messed through them, I was just like, oh my God, all of Hollywood has been through this, it's been through this showroom or has been to this store. And just seemed like very like rock and roll and sexy to me. And there was
It
just
was
this,
such a great brand. I mean, I remember when
yeah,
it was like really breaking into the scene, and it felt like everybody was wearing it.
it did. And it was such it just had a rebellious spirit to it. And, I think I was always used to at the firm, there was no dress code. And so got very used to like a jeans and t-shirt sort of work life. And, Von Dutch made jeans and t-shirts and trucker hats. And, they gave you tons of them, which, I swear at a time, I ended up ascending to, CMO at Von Dutch in a very short period of time. I could carry Von Dutch hats around like they were, like they were currency, and get into nightclubs, get tables, yeah, whatever I wanted, just because they were so sought after. And I remember making deals when we would do trade shows. The big hotel, like the heads of hospitality at the hotels, would literally offer me, during a trade show, like a week and a half stay in like a really nice suite.
For a t-shirt?
No, in exchange for me throwing my party every twice a year at the Magic and Project trade shows. They would have a big our first Von Dutch party there. The head of marketing for the Hard Rock Hotel called it the best party he ever threw, and that was the first one I ever did. And I mean, we literally had a line from the door of the nightclub out to the street, like out the door of the hotel, out into the street. Like 3,000 or 4,000 people. And so our parties became a thing of lore. And, I would always bring a celebrity that we were working with as like the face or the host of it. And it was a big popular thing at the time. And it just helped kind of grow the legend of Von Dutch. So
Right.
I was lucky enough to be the person, not the only person, but like the centerpiece person that got to bring celebrities into the store all the time. So my job was reaching out to celebrities, or we had such rabid fan base, they would come in on their own and I would host them. And I mean, I literally have no less than 200 pictures of me with celebrities. And you probably remember from my old office days, I just have call it the Wall of Fame, and it was hundreds of pictures of me and celebrities. And it was just it was funny because our designer was a designer named Christian Audiger, who went on to do Ed Hardy. He passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
But this was his MO. And he called himself Vif, V-I-F, and he's French. And it just, in his mind, I don't know exactly how it translated, but it meant the fast one. And he called me the Junior Vif. And so whatever he was doing, I was kind of like alongside him. But he didn't speak that good of English. So when it really came to the celebrities, they could communicate with me and do whatever. He would just come in and he was like the ringmaster. He'd come in and give him the whole spiel that he did, take his pictures and leave. But I had the good fortune of making really great relationships with tons of great celebrities that I still see and interact with today. So it was a super great opportunity for a 24-year-old kid.
Amazing. And to think that you were that age, and then you parlayed it into your own agency. So, some pretty pivotal, as I'll call them, reinvention moments in your life. What was that moment when you decided to open your own agency? And,
so
there's a lot of risk. I mean, I've been running a company for 30 years. You and I have talked about, what it takes, and, people at that point knew you well, and you were probably being offered plenty of jobs, and there were plenty of ways where you could have just gone and collected a paycheck. So what on earth possessed you to want to run your own company at that point?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was only 26, and in a matter of 24 to 26, I ascended from marketing assistant to their highest level of marketing at Von Dutch. And during that run, we had went from, when I first got there, it was, I think, valued at about 30 or $35 million. At our peak, we were $100 million fashion brand. And I got to be there for that whole heyday, and help to be a driving force in, we're going to talk a little bit about influencers in a bit, but part of the reinvention of influencers, and why I came up with that title for this, is because we had the original influencers. The early influencers were the musicians, the actors, the Hollywood tastemakers. And while we didn't even have social media, I can only imagine what Von Dutch would have been in the social media era. But But what we did back then was I had, shit you not, a 5 megapixel camera. And I would take that downstairs and I would take a picture of these celebrities and then upload it into my computer and then send it to our web team. And our website had every single day, you could pretty much guarantee that there would be a new celebrity on there. And we'd have like a whole splash page ready for that next celebrity and whatever. And that was our, the window to the world. So everybody knew what celebrity had been at Von Dutch recently just by going to our page. And so it's sort of like a early precursor to social media. But back to your question about what gave me the courage to do this. So like you said, a lot of people were saying to me, I've seen what you've done for Von Dutch. Can you do this for my brand? And I heard that over and over, and from great fashion brands mostly. I mean, I was incubated in that community for the most part, and I'd go to the trade shows and like, it'd be like trying to like bring me into like backroom deals or whatever at like trade show booths and tell me how much money they'll pay me and all this sort of stuff. And it was interesting to me, but it was happening to me so often. At the time I had a guy who was a great mentor of mine, and still to this day, who had come into Von Dutch, had kind of like cooled off in popular culture. It was so big, it went up so fast, it just had to come down. I mean, it was a trend built on a trucker hat, and it was just, it had kind of seen its time. And I had venerably stayed on the ship despite the fact that I saw that it was kind of in decline. And so this guy was hired to be a consultant, a marketing consultant, to look at the company holistically and figure out what was still good from it and like what could be salvaged and, what were the next steps for it. And, he took me to lunch one day and he said, honestly, really the thing about this company that's great is the marketing, and that's your job. And I see you continuing to have success. He said, as for the brand, there's not much left to do here.
Like the life cycle.
The life cycle had come to an end, and really the only thing that I see here in my assessment that I would want to keep from this is you. And so I have a company called Osiris. It's a surf and skate shoe company based out of San Diego. They've just asked me to become the president. We're doing a corporate takeover. All kinds of bad stuff was going on at the time. So he's like, when they bring me in there, he's like, I'd like to hire you as our PR and marketing. I don't care if you start an agency or whatever it is, but I'll pay you $10,000 a month to do it. And I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So with that little thing in my back pocket, I was able to go to sit down with the CEO of Von Dutch, Tony Sorensen, and tell him that I was, it was Christmas time, and I told him I was going to leave. And he told me, you can't leave. He's like, you're the hub of all PR and marketing and communications here. I'm like, I need some,
like
I need some
fall out of the company.
Yeah. And I need some solidarity here,
right.
Please don't abandon me in this time of need. And so then he told me, he's like, if you want to go do this and you want to start your own agency, that's fine. I'll pay you the same amount that I'm already paying you to stay, working with us. He said, if you can come here in the mornings and help physically here, and then in the afternoon, go to wherever else you want to go to work, that would work. So I agreed to it. And so I started LLC, and I started a PR company called American Rebel PR. And this was in 2005. And I had 2 clients to get started with that. That paid me very well.
Similar
very
story
cool.
at a period in my life. And that opportunity to be paid to stay where you are and build your business on the back of that is quite extraordinary. And I don't think
really
I've ever talked about that moment now, but it really is incredible. And kudos to you, because again, you could have made that pivot and look, to run a business, to keep the clients, to work the business, to continue to grow the business and manage what it takes, as I know, and and any of us out there who have done that, is not for the faint of heart. And I think we're seeing a lot more entrepreneurs now in our lives, especially as we get a little bit older and people have done the corporate thing for 20, 30, whatever years, and
Mhm.
you're going, okay, now I'm going to try it. It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
What would you say were the challenges there at the time? Like where were
Mhm.
you challenged, if anything? I mean, obviously at one point, you
Mhm.
evolved from there. I mean, you had an opportunity and a really good reason. But were
Mhm.
there particular times or moments where you just looked at this and said, I'm nuts, I need to just go collect a paycheck from somebody?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I had no idea what I was doing. I've never started a business. Had no idea what went into it. I didn't have an office space. I'm literally just starting this on the strength of, two solid companies that are going to pay me very well. And so I kind of went into it blindly, and it was trial by fire, and just got pushed in the deep end and just started swimming. And it was interesting. I mean, I would actually, so Osiris sent me a ton of merchandise, and I had no place to, I lived in a 500 square foot house in Laurel Canyon, and I had nowhere to put all this merchandise. It's sneakers. They're like, boxes this big. So I built a tent in my backyard, and the tent was my storage unit where I had all of my shoes all the time. And so shoes and clothes and all that sort of stuff. And so if anybody had ever figured out that tent was full of stuff, they could have ransacked it, and I probably would have been out of my $10,000 a month cushy gig, but no one ever did. Thank God. It was so unassuming. But what I would do is I would every day I knew kind of what celebrities were going to be coming into Von Dutch, and while it wasn't the A+ list anymore, there were still solid celebrities coming in all the time. So I would stock my car up each day, like my trunk full of stuff that I knew would be for them, their shoe sizes, styles I thought they liked, all that sort of stuff. So I would go do the Von Dutch thing with them in the store. And then I would lead them out to the parking lot, and like some backstreet hustler, I would open up my trunk, and all the product was there, and I would gift it to them there. And we literally have pictures of them, like holding up shoes or trying on shoes, like sitting in my car or whatever, which now I think back on, and it's so cringeworthy, but I mean, I'm a 26-year-old kid, like just trying to make things work. And
Well, but now people have the ease of social media at their fingertips. And to
yeah.
your point, as you touched on a moment ago, the role that influencers play in doing what you were physically doing, one-to-one.
Yeah.
You were doing that. There are
Yeah.
now platforms. Someone needs to create the Chris Detert platform instead of a TikTok platform. I mean, that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes to the change in the industry. And let's kind of skip to the influencer space and how you and your brother pivoted. And he was not quite in the, well, he wasn't working with you in American Rebel PR. So
Nope.
share a little bit about how this kind of manifested.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, American Rebel, from that very early became very successful. I think I had over 20 employees at its peak. Had tons of great brands that I was representing, having a good time doing it. Then we lived through the 2008 market crash, which was, for marketing and PR people, as you probably remember, was absolutely
everybody
brutal.
would say the first people to go.
Yeah, exactly. First people to
That was the
go.
line, the first people to go. It's like,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And it was never, so 05 to 08, I was on fire. I could not do wrong. Every year, 100% growth, having so much fun, just all positive. But yeah, then that pandemic, or not the pandemic, it seemed like a pandemic. then the market crashed, and it was never the same. So I kept going until 2013, but like it was always a lot harder work, doing twice as much work for half as much money. Around, I think, 2008 or so, my brother decided to move to LA. He'd wanted to work with me, but it just wasn't like a cultural fit so much. We just did things very differently. But he became a fixture at the office. I think he liked, I had a lot of pretty girls around all the time, and it was just a cool place to be. And I mean, we had showrooms full of gifting products and stuff like that. So, I would give him permission when he had, people that were in he'd bring in a meeting or whatever. I'd say, yeah, I'd take him into the showroom and give him a pair of sneakers or whatever, make him feel special. And so at that time, he was, just kind of testing the early social media business. He was very heavy in Twitter, and he had started a business where you basically just kind of have a bunch of Twitter accounts, and he was doing sort of an arbitrage business where he was making money on those accounts, and then also at the same time he started getting approached by brands. Like he had the handle @travel and still does on Twitter, which now is I think 7 million followers or something like that. And he was finding that companies like Marriott wanted to give him a lot of money to run content on these. And so I think that was sort of just like the first, realization that, social media could be monetized in such a way. And so he and a partner built up, I think, about 30 plus million followers on Twitter and a little bit on Instagram. And it was mainly on the basis of what they called niche accounts, which were, he always, his popular line is, I'm not a model, I don't sing or dance, like none of that. But what he had was niche accounts, which were these accounts that were based on a specific interest. He had one called The Notebook that was all like love and romance sort of stuff, and run by two guys. And then he had @travel, still has @automotive, so verticalized to a specific industry sort of accounts. And so it started with that, and was doing well with it. And then he and a friend of ours kind of started the early build up of what the early technology was of influential. And for me, I had been holding on to American Rebel probably longer than I should have. And I was in a relationship that I was unhappy about. And so on the same day, I ended the relationship and closed the doors of American Rebel PR.
Wow.
Yep, September 25th, 2013.
And
And
I knew you then, so I
yeah,
don't think I realized that there was such an alignment in this.
no,
Really, I mean, talk about a reinvention moment right there. That's like a
yeah,
serious aha moment where you have this incredible revelation that it is time to clear the decks.
yeah. And
And
so,
yeah.
I ended up actually, Ryan was getting going on the early version of Influential, which was then called the Influential Network. And I was just trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do next, but I was not happy with anything in my life. And so I gave him that office space, which was a fun little office space up on the corner of Sunset and Crescent Heights that will always be fond in my heart. Yeah. And I just kind of checked out for a little bit and just tried to figure out, what my next steps were going to be in life. And, I was helping him peripherally, obviously being, the person that has so many contacts like myself. I was introducing him to, what ended up becoming board members for the company, and, potential clients, and helping raise money, helping, get my family all excited about this. So I was just doing that in the background. And then I think it was probably the Christmas holiday of 2013 into 2014. I was talking to him, and, I was like really proud of, what he had accomplished. And, just thought that, like, from a technical perspective, it was a very sound idea. Like the taming of the wild west of social is sort of what we kind of became known for doing, adding data and transparency and metrics and accountability to the social media world. And so I had an idea to do a series of parties, because influencers are known for being cool and fun and all that sort of stuff. And so I came up with the idea to do what we called the Influential House, which was kicked off for the first time at 2014 Coachella. And we got a big mansion there, and we invited about 50 influencers to stay at this mansion. There are no 50-room mansions in Palm Springs. So we, to the extent that we got like cots and had them sleeping all over the place. But the whole concept was get paid to party. So we were running campaigns at the party. They got to actually like participate in paid campaigns. all having the time of their lives. And a lot of them hadn't even met each other. And back in 2014, that was the era of Vine, the 6-second, social platform. And it was a lot of those guys. And so, people like Logan and Jake Paul and Amanda Cerny and Rudy Mancuso and all these people who were like, some of the biggest social stars of now. That was like a lot of their first time getting together. And I was lucky enough through my previous press contacts, I had ran a house or a gifting lounge at the Sundance Film Festival in '06 that was sponsored by Entertainment Tonight. And I made friends with an executive producer there. And when we did our first influential house, I pitched all of my, press contacts to get them to come. And the biggest one I pitched was definitely Entertainment Tonight's executive producer. And she got right back to me and she says, all right, we're going to send a crew to cover. And I just about shit in that moment because I go, oh no, like, what have I done? I thought I was way over my skis, I thought. So I called her and, actually advocated against myself in a sort of funny way, just to be like, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but like your, visual influencers, Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian and those people, they're not going to be here. If you have kids or you have, nieces and nephews, they're going to have heard of the people and think they're the coolest people.
They're like the whole other wave of people.
Yeah, but you don't know who these people are. And she said, you know what, Chris, our staff and our interns have been complaining in meetings that we are technically the oldest skewing entertainment news show and that we aren't relevant to a young audience. And so they said, what would be relevant to a young audience? And they said influencers. So she said, Chris, based on my belief in you and what my staff has told me, I'm sending you that crew. And so sure enough, they sent 5 people, and our TV host Roxy Diaz was our host. She spent the whole day with us, interviewed a lot of those people who had never been on TV before, their very first television appearance. And we ended up having a spectacular first weekend. And then Monday afternoon, when Entertainment Tonight runs on national TV, they ran about a 2-minute and 40-second segment on Coachella. 2 minutes and 10 seconds were about my little 50-person influencer house. And then the final 30 seconds were about, the 100,000 person plus festival that was being headlined by Katy Perry.
I love it. Good for, oh my God, that, it's really fascinating. And I've been able to witness the growth of this space. And to your point, not knowing the names of the people that we know are rocking that world and have millions of followers, and the brands, the best, most prestigious blue chip brands are coming to you and saying, create campaigns for us, take our digital media dollars. What's that been like? And I know you have so many powerful relationships in that space, and you've just continued to sort of grow and breathe life into that kind of part of the business. What's it been like convincing brands from the days where you had to convince them versus them knocking on your door and you go, well, I don't know if we have time or space or what have you. I'm sure you always say yes, but that sort of, process. What was that like? I mean, and also as a company, you guys grew very quickly because exponentially as the industry was growing, and there were a lot of people really wanting in on this space and starting to make sense of how to monetize it. What was that like for you?
I mean, I would say the first couple years of the company was purely an education, and I won't take credit for it because the side of the business that I work on is definitely not sales. I'm definitely good at bringing people into the top of the funnel. I know enough to be well educated, but I've my brother and our chief revenue officer, Chris Boydenis, are fantastic at what they do. And, they were going to New York like every other week and taking, 5 to 7 meetings. And, it's like in New York City to try to get around to 5 to 7 meetings.
Yeah.
And they were doing that every day. and I mean, to probably low conversion rate sort of possibilities, because at that point it was such a nascent space and so few people were, hardly even dipping their toes into it, and everybody was skeptical of it. And they always considered influencer, well, it's many more letters than 4 letter. They considered it a 4 letter word. And, for many years, we would call ourselves anything but an influencer marketing company because we didn't want to hurt the valuation of the company. We didn't want to be pigeonholed as that. And I mean, really, when it comes down to it, we're, a data and conversion company. We're a company that structures data, uses AI through IBM Watson, and then uses all of that as well as conversion technology to make actual results like foot traffic into stores, sales into stores, TV tune-in lift. So our objective is much different than just a typical influencer marketing company. I mean, you can grab a couple influencers and say you represent them and have them post organically and call yourself an influencer marketing company. And we were 100 times more sophisticated version.
Yeah, and I think, I'm really glad you brought that up, because any of us who have witnessed the growth of this space and know that there are plenty of people who have an arsenal of great influences at their fingertips. I mean, look, I handle the Shorty Awards. I know there's an entire industry dedicated to recognizing the impact that they're having out there, but for you to utilize and do what really matters in the industry, which is the data and the support. And, I've been pitched by your company to understand the A to Z on what you do as a business. And this is no joke. I mean, you were one of the first in the space, if not the first, to create the relationship you did with IBM Watson and with Condé Nast and with some of the biggest blue chip brands in the business. And that's not just because you knew how to get good influencers with 1 million followers plus, into the room. It's because you understood how to create the conversion and the engagement and the whole ecosystem around the business. And you were educating them. I mean, I think these brands and these companies were so thirsty at the time to understand at the level at which they could then function with it, how to do what needed to be done in this space. And, not lost the irony of what's happened with marketing dollars right now in the space and where the digital spending is versus the experiential spending or the out-of-home spending, in the last year and a half is exponential once again, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, just since the pandemic hit, our business has doubled in size. We have over 150 employees now. We're hiring currently right now 30 new jobs. So yeah, it's amazing what social has become. I mean, our goal years ago was just to become part of the digital media mix. And now we're a solid line item on it on every budget. Like if you're not doing influencer marketing as a large scale company, you're probably doing something wrong, or you're probably missing out in a huge way. So, we've been the great benefactors of the people that educated people in the early days, and now they're seeing the results and the benefits of it. And like you said, we now do have people coming out of the woodwork all the time wanting to work with us. And to your point, we actually do turn a decent bit of work away, partially because because we've become the leader in the space. Our campaigns are in the range of 6 figures and up, multi-million-dollar campaigns. It's funny because a lot of times I think there's a popular misconception that like I can help people like grow their following, or people just come up to me, oh, you're the social media guy. Yeah, can you help me, grow my Instagram following? Or I've got this, little
I should stop asking you that question at this point.
I've got this little bake sale. Do you think you can help like promote it with some influencers?
Right.
I mean, we do. I will say, I head up all of our philanthropic work, and we've had the good fortune of working with the United Nations, World Health Organization, Rock the Vote, most recently Big Brothers Big Sisters, and we do a lot of pro bono work. But if I'm going to do that kind of stuff, I'm only going to do that on the highest level because I want to make the biggest impact. If we're going to do something, charitable, just like what we do on the business front, everything we do has to have impact and has to be industry and class leading. So that's just what we do now.
That's amazing. What's next for Chris Detert? As business grows, as the industry evolves, are there any sort of images on the horizon, or what's next?
Well, I think I have a side gig, a little side business that I started with my good friend Randy Jackson of American Idol fame. We teamed up with my good friend Craig Clemens, and we started a company called Unify Health Labs. And we are a gut health and wellness brand. We started the idea at my Christmas party in 2017, where I introduced
Were
them.
you drinking too much?
Probably. And then
like something's got to change. New Year's Eve
right,
around the
yeah,
corner.
right. And then it launched last year and did over 10 million in business its first year, has done more than double that, and the year's not even over this year. A good testament to Craig and his amazing team. They're a full service direct consumer marketing company. And they have a number of $100 million brands, which I hope Unify Health Labs will reach one day. And they're just wizards of direct marketing. They know how to identify a consumer, and those ads where you're on, you go at different like web pages, and that ad just follows you everywhere you go.
Yes, yes.
Those guys do that, and they just break your will after a while. You see something so much that you got to buy it.
What is it?
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that's my future by any means. I would love to put together more of those deals because it's great passive income. But I mean, we're so in the thick of the everything that's going on with influential. We've had numerous offers to be bought. We have other considerations on the table. So so much exciting stuff going on right now that that's the core focus. Obviously, if we were to divest or have a big moment like that, I would kind of take a step back and look at my various options. But I'm happy with what I'm doing right now. I enjoy what I do, and I feel blessed.
And with everybody, I know we're getting close to the end of the hour, but got to ask this question: with the world being in the state of the pandemic, is everybody back in the office? Is everybody working virtually? You're a very digital minded company, but you've got a huge team. So what's that experience about?
Yes. So we gave up our beautiful 5,000 square foot office on Wilshire in Beverly Hills, and my brother moved to Miami. We're all working remotely right now. We have still a Vegas office and a New York office, which are being used very sparingly. I think, one or two people may go in at a time, just if they want a little bit of, personal space from home, change of scenery, whatever that might be. But yeah, I mean, we've thrived, we've excelled. Our team is very cohesive. I mean, we're so lucky that we got this together, as a company in 2014. And I'd say by like 2016 or 17, we were a formidable force in the industry. Had it been 3 or 4 years later, my heart goes out to all of the founders who started a company that was just starting to get its footing or starting to gel, and then you rip everyone out of the office. Our systems are so ingrained now. We have workflow that's fantastic. People that have known each other for years. Today I was so happy to see like a bunch of our staff all got promotions. We're lifting up the OGs and making room for the new ones. And there's a great energy, and there's a real love and pride. I see it. I see some of our employees posting, job recs and stuff like that, and they love where they work, and they can outwardly put that out there, and that's inspiring, and feel proud to have been a part of that creation.
That's amazing, and it's great to hear the way that's being paid forward, to people who've really contributed. I have one final fun question to ask you, and that is, and you've alluded to all the fabulous people that have been in your life, all the celebrities, all the people that have had a profound impact on parts of your life. So if you can have a dinner party, and I'm going to guess that your wife, Lisa, is going to be the one catering it, because
of course,
her company is the premier amazing catering company in the business. What's it called? Remind me the name so we can
Beverly Hills Premier Catering.
Beverly Hills Premier Catering. I mean, she's doing it for everybody, including what was the big real estate show? What was it?
So she is a regular visitor on the TV show Selling Sunset on Netflix. And she's actually become more than catering. Her business, Lisa Lafferty Events, is really the core focus right now. I mean, the catering goes hand in hand with it, but you know, she produced $1 million wedding on the show, and is now regularly doing these stunning over the top weddings and events. She also works on Rodeo Drive with all the big brands.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's a powerhouse, and yeah, there'd be
Okay,
nobody
so-
else I'd want to
right.
plan my party.
Exactly. Well, hello. Somebody just got married in Italy right before the pandemic, thanks to her and all her, probably both of your amazing planning. But I want to ask you this: when the two of you can have your next dinner party, and you can have anybody at the table, living or not, who 3 to 4 people you would love to have drinking that glass of wine with, breaking bread with?
It's an interesting array. My favorite athlete of all time, John Elway, I would love for him to be there. I'm a huge Larry David fan, so I would love to have him as the old curmudgeon. You know, I love the grunge era of rock and roll. I was lucky enough actually to create a clothing line with Scott Weiland, the lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots, while he was alive. Guys like him and Kurt Cobain and Lane Staley of Alice in Chains are all some of my favorite guys. They probably would have been nuts to be at the table with, but we could throw them in there. Yeah, I don't know. I love Dave Matthews. I think he's an interesting guy to me. And then let me think, like, who else would like really like mix it up? I mean, I love fashion so much. I would probably actually, I've been watching the documentary or the Netflix series Halston.
Halston, I knew you were going to say that.
He'd have been an interesting dinner guest, right?
Especially then, you know, Studio 54 party sounds good.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm in.
That's great. Chris, this has been such a gorgeous conversation. I've learned new things about you after all these years, which is really fun. I hope that everybody's enjoyed tuning in, listening, just sharing nuggets of all that is possible. And what I love, you know, I look at sort of in the context of people being able to reinvent their lives and all the incarnations of what you can do and being open. I mean, and I think that there's so much to be said for you and just your whole attitude throughout all these, you know, course corrections and reinventions and moments where you've pivoted. You've just been open to what's possible. And you've enjoyed every aspect and the passion that has gone into everything. And I think we just have to give ourselves that opportunity, feel entitled to create life on those terms. And I think you and I connect on those levels in so many ways, because that is how we live and it's what we do. And we love what we do every day, and we get to do it for work. And that's really fun. And, you know, I'm constantly trying to help and guide and get people to a place where they believe that that's possible, and then kind of figure out what those passions are. So I love you being a part of this conversation and sharing yourself with our audiences. And I'm so grateful for you being here. And I just want to sort of sign off to our conversation with Chris, but don't go anywhere just yet. And thank you everybody for tuning in. And if you're listening on the podcast, feel free to look at the show notes. You can look at how to reach Chris. If you want more information or look at previous podcasts or previous Reinvention virtual chats, which we're on, go to the reinventionexchange.com. And of course, if you're interested in buying a copy of my book, Reinvent Your Life, What Are You Waiting For? It's an ebook and paperback on Amazon, Apple, or you can buy it directly off the website. So thank you again, Chris. Loved having you, and happy reinventing, everybody.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, the podcast is done. And I just want to take a moment, and I know we're after the hour, guys, but I would love to just open the conversation with everybody. Chris, do you have a couple of extra minutes?
Yeah, I could probably stay till about 3:45.
Okay, perfect. So just in case anybody wants to say hello, ask any questions, share any thoughts. Chris, just such a colorful, wonderful background, and, you know, just love that conversation.
It was a great presentation. I actually clicked Chris on in LinkedIn, and maybe he'll respond. But I'm curious. I mean, it's Marv. No.
I'm giving him a hard time.
Thank you. Thank you for your support, Marvin. You're always there.
You can tell who the regulars are on the Reinvention
Yeah,
virtual chat
exactly.
every
The
Tuesday,
peanut
right?
gallery.
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of curious in terms of who you'd invite to dinner. And you've got this huge poster of JFK hanging in the background, and you never thought to invite him.
Yeah, I actually should invite him if we're going back and doing that all over. I would actually, I was trying to think. I want somebody official. I think I would pick Obama over JFK, though. I think both would rank highly for me.
Well, I think he'd also love to be at the table with the people that you listed. Like that conversation would be particularly, that's kind of, you look at the combination and, throw Gandhi in the mix and God knows what you're left with.
Exactly.
Great.
Well, you seem to credit luck throughout all your transitions, and I'm wondering how much it was luck and how much it was something else.
Yeah, I don't discount being in the right place at the right time, and I don't think of myself as an all-powerful, all-knowing being by any means. So I think what is it? Luck is something plus preparation. I would see it as something. A bit of a bit of serendipity mixed with hard work and good placement.
Eric, were you raising your hand a moment ago? No? Okay, Marvin. Yes, please.
I have to laugh. This is kind of like deja vu because Kathy, if you remember when we were at that one charity event and we were both talking about this one person that we wanted to introduce each other to, and it was Chris. So it's nice that we're friendly fighting over the introduction. I like
That's really
full circle moment.
Yes. Yeah. And then fast forward, now we're working together. So it's fun. And the iteration of where you've gone through, obviously, and the different phases of what's happened that you've done in business and that you've seen in not just the influencer, but just people that want publicity in any way.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you look at the influencer of some of the, the mainstays versus now, if you talk to somebody that's, 16 or below, they only know of TikTok.
Yeah.
And how do you mold those two together? Because they're very different influencer platforms.
Yeah, it's really funny actually. Like those, I didn't want to say it in the recording, but those OG ones that I put on TV for the first time. That was 7 years ago now. It's not that long ago. Some of them are irrelevant at this point. Yeah. And if they're not irrelevant, because some of them have gone on to do very well for themselves, they are perceived as very old now by these TikTok kids. It's amazing the life cycle of influence and of influencer marketing. We often say that we see the influencer ecosystem, the influencer economy as a blood pumping heart. Every single day, new blood comes in and every day old goes out. So for us, when we identified what we were going to do as a business, we decided we were going to stake our relationships with the brands. At the time, everybody was doing a talent model. Everybody wanted to be, WME became our biggest partner and investor. They thought they had to own all the influencers, and there were all these multi-channel networks, MCNs, like Maker Studios, and everybody was in a land grab to own these influencers. And we took the opposite tact, and we focused on the brands and how we could best serve the brands. And we see every influencer, I feel like it's a little bit of a grim description of them, but they're just a media delivery mechanism in a way. They reach audiences, a specific audience with a specific sort of message. And for us, the job is to use our data and analytics and AI to figure out who those best people are for each brand, each campaign, and to hire those people, pay those people to deliver that message for us. And in response to your question, the 16-year-old TikToker has very little in common with my friend Candy Johnson is one of the OGs of YouTube. She's 43 years old. They both are entertainers. They both have that kindred spirit. They both have millions of followers on social platforms, but I mean, they're worlds apart as far as, you know, the way they conduct themselves. And I mean, I don't think we catch Candy dead doing, you know, this dancing crap that they do on TikTok. And, you know, for a long time, I actually, I'm 40, almost 43. So I'm kind of like, get off my lawn with this TikTok. But TikTok is it right now. I mean, I was just at the Patel conference this past week, and they were nice enough to let a woman who's the head of the global head of partnerships was my little sister at TikTok, or at the conference, because I've been there 5 years and this was her first one. And so, you know, getting to know her, and we're just about to launch on the 31st of August as the first alpha partner of TikTok, meaning that we are the first company that they gave their API technology to plug in to be able to run campaigns and pull full back-end analytics. So, you know, I find myself, you know, in fact, every week we have a half-hour long internal TikTok call, and all that's about is figuring out how, you know, how we forge a tighter relationship with them.
Right.
And I mean, we have similar
Yeah.
things with Instagram and Facebook, but that's from years ago, because they, you know, they still are technically the biggest by far. But you got TikTok, which is by far and away the hottest. And
it's growing for brands faster than any right now. So
exactly. And what I was going to say is the ROI on it is better than anything. I mean, blindingly so. Like, you know, if you can tap into the right nerve on TikTok with the right kind of campaign, like you'll 5x what you're doing on other platforms.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's a great note to kind of send us off on.